Now, I've always been really creative with my DJ sets. You've seen videos of me playing on the DJS 1000, the SP16, creating tracks live. But I also love playing with acapellas, layering them over whatever is playing and creating my own interesting edits, making my set unique that night. Now, you can get acapellas from just about any DJ download website. Beatport, TrackSource, they've all got acapella sections where you can download the acapella and play it straight in your set. But I like to go that step further. I like editing those acapellas up and create my own DJ tools, things that are unique to my set. And that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. We're going to jump into Ableton, I'm going to take an acapella and show you how I prepare it for my sets. Okay, so let's jump into Ableton, and I've deliberately picked an acapella that I know is going to be tricky to do because I want to show you my techniques for editing acapellas. And this is going to change depending on what acapella you choose. So it might be a hip hop acapella, it might be a dance one, it might be a drum and bass one. They could be all different tempos and they might have all different content. But I want to show you a few techniques I do for getting the right speed, the tempo, getting the right timing on it. These are just a few techniques that I use when I come to edit my acapellas. So let's jump into it. And this acapella is DSK, What Would We Do? It's an old acapella.
What would we do?
Yeah.
What would we
Yeah.
What would we do?
So this acapella has got several different parts of it that are, some of it are in time, some of it aren't in time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start editing it up so that we can get it all in time and it becomes a DJ tool that I know I can rely on. I can hit play or hit a hot cue and know it's going to play at the right speed and it's going to play at the right place and the right timings. I don't have to worry about it too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag it and drop it into Ableton. Now I've got it set up so that it automatically warps tracks as soon as you drop them in there, which when it comes to an acapella will almost always get wrong. It will never get the right BPM. So I'm going to unwarp it by selecting warp and then turning it off. Now you might already have that turned off in your Ableton preferences, very easy to do, but you can easily just unwarp it by pressing the warp button. Now I want to make sure that that start point goes all the way to the start, so I'm just clicking it and dragging it left. And we've got the full acapella within here now. So at this stage, what I need to do is I need to decide what speed I want the acapella to be, because I want this to fit with my sets. Now, every acapella you're going to download is going to be at the original tempo of that track, but I want it to fit with my sets. Now, my sets are around about 124, 125, 126 maybe BPM. So I'm going to actually set my project as 124. So I know that at least when I come to this acapella, it's going to be around the speed that I'm playing at, and 124 is probably going to be about the right speed as to what I'm playing at. So I'm going to instantly change this to 124 BPM. So I know that that is the speed of my project and that's what we're going to be mapping it to. Now that acapella isn't magically in time. That's what we're going to have to do now. And this is always a tricky part. The tricky part with an acapella is to find the timing for it. So finding the BPM of it and then finding it where it fits with the beat. So it actually is in time rather than being out of time. You'll know when you've heard a friend drunkily singing along, they won't be in time with the actual record. Well, we don't want that with our acapella. We want it to be in time perfectly where the lyrics should be or roundabout. So that's what I'm going to do here. And the way I do it is you usually find a bit of the vocal that repeats, or it repeats in some kind of timing. So you can you can almost see a repetition happening there. And you kind of know that that's at least a bar's length or a couple of bars length. And you know that's what you're working with. So if I look at this acapella here, I know there's a bit here that kind of repeats.
Yeah. What would we do?
So between those 2 points, that must be the start of something, or it's halfway through a bar or something like that. But we can see that's looping there. So those are the same elements. I can kind of hear that that's the start of the same phrase. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start the first point on that what would we. So I'm going to zoom into it here. And in fact, I'm going to turn warp back on again, which is going to warp it to the speed of our track, which is 124, which is what we want. We kind of want that. And we can see now that it's put a little transient on this what would we. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to click set 1-1 here. So this is going to set the start of the clip here. If I zoom out on the main bit here, we can see. And what I want to do now is I want to set it to warp straight. Now, what does warp straight mean? Well, it basically means from the point that we just started, that's that 1, 1, 1, it's going to warp straight. It's going to keep the same speed from that point onwards. So I'm going to right click on that point that we just added and go to warp from here straight. Now this again might work, it might not, it hasn't. So we can see that that part repeats here. So what I'm going to do, we can see that I'm going to need to drag it up to this bar here because we're going to create a loop in this part here. So we're going to create a 2-bar loop for this. I'm going to drag and drag this this next repetition of that phrase. I'm going to drag it to the 3 mark here. So we've got a loop here. So if I now select these 2 bars within here and hit Apple L on my keyboard, which is the loop shortcut, it will now trim this loop to this part. And if we play it back in real time.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is now a loop that's going to continue to go on. Now, we want to make sure that that's in time. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the metronome. Now, the metronome is just that click, 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 and that will keep a constant time for us. And we can see whether it's in time or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there we go. We can actually hear with that clicking there, the metronome, we can actually hear that that's now in time. And this is going to be different for every track you do. It's going to be sometimes trickier or harder to try and find that looping part, that part that you can actually fit it with the metronome so you know that it's in time. But I know that kind of works. And actually that loop that we've just created there, that could be a really kind of cool DJ tool. So I might actually keep that one as it is. So at the moment that's going over about 30 seconds worth there, so that's about the 30-second mark. What I might do is I'm going to drag that out to a minute, so I've got a minute's worth of that loop. Now that might just be a DJ tool on its own, I might just use that as a DJ tool on its own. But what I like to do is I like to take one acapella and put several different loops within the one track. So when I load up that acapella, I might have 2 or 3 different points within that acapella where there's different loops happening. So for example, on the first hot cue point or whatever you want to call it, at the very start of the acapella, there's this loop. There's the what would we do loop. And then about a minute into it, then I'd go into a different loop and I'd use a different loop. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do exactly the same with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this across. I'm going to drag, holding down the Alt key, which actually copies things across. So we're creating another little loop here. Now, if I zoom out of this is selecting this clip here. You can see it's highlighted. What I can do is I can now move this loop region and actually kind of create a loop somewhere else.
When I think of you, all I want to do is tell you I love you. Everything you do when I'm feeling blue lets me know love is true. What would we do if they took our love away?
Okay, so I don't like that bit there, but I like the main vocal there, so I'm going to stop it there. So we've got this loop happening.
When I think of you, all I want to do is tell you I love you. Everything you do when I'm feeling blue lets me know love is true. What would we do when I think of you?
So we can hear on the end it just misses out that do part. So we can actually chop that up a little bit so we can actually use that do part at the start of it. So we're creating our own loop again. So we got this kind of loop that's happening here, but we're missing the do out at the end there. I can easily fix that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the loop off. Turn the loop off so it's actually going to play all the way through.
What would we do if they took our love?
So I want that do part there. I'm going to zoom right in. So I'm just going to use that part. I'm going to copy that off. I'm going to copy that there. So this is just this do part. And we still got our, so that means we still got our loop here.
When I think of you.
And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take that do part and I'm going to put it at the start of here. Now that might sound strange at first, but if I then loop up this portion here.
When I think of you, all I want to do is tell you I love you. Everything you do when I'm feeling blue lets me know love is true. What would we do when I think of you? All I want to do.
So you can see we're actually creating our own kind of loop there. It's a little bit rough at the moment, but we're going to tidy that up now. But that's generally kind of how I'd start, by doing another little loop within the track. So I've kind of got something, another part that I'm working with, another loop within this a cappella that I can use within my sets. So yeah, at the start of that sounds really rough. So I'm going to zoom right in here. And this is when we can start using track fades to kind of merge them into each other. So I'm just going to pull this out a bit maybe here. So we want to try and find a portion where this is finishing and this is just starting. So try and find a portion where the waveform is quite small. And then I'm going to take one of these fades, probably the fade from the right clip, and I'm going to drag it left. And that creates a crossfade. So this means it will kind of create a smoother effect between the two.
When I think of you.
So there you go. You can't even hear any clipping anymore from there.
When I think.
And in fact, let me turn the metronome off so you can hear it a bit better.
When I think of you. When I think of you.
So there you go. We've got like a really nice little loop happening there. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to join all this together. So I'm going to select both of these clips together and I'm going to consolidate it, basically, make it into its own loop. So loads of different ways you can do this. You can right click on it and you can go to consolidate. You can see obviously there's also a shortcut, Apple J, which I usually use. So I'm going to consolidate that into one clip. So that's now our own little loop. This is our own little loop that we've just created. So I'm going to get rid of all this stuff here that we don't need. Is there any more there? No, there's no more there. And so this little clip here is now our loop. So I'm going to hit it, turn it into loop mode, and now we've got this own little loop that we can use again. So we've got the first loop happening here.
Yeah.
And then at the 1 minute mark, it then turns into the second loop.
When I think of you, all I want to do is tell you I love you. Everything you do when I'm feeling blue lets me know love is true. What would we do when I think of you? All I want to do is tell you I love you.
So there you go, we've got two loops happening within the same a cappella now. So if we'd have just downloaded that a cappella from Beatport, TrackSource or whatever and just played it straight in our sets, then we would have had to really struggle to try and find the right parts of it. Or if we were doing it in Rekordbox, for example, you know, we've got to try and find the BPM of it in Rekordbox and then create those loops and make it all fit and everything. It just becomes a little bit harder. And especially the way I've looped up that second part, that's only something you would be able to do in Ableton, so you'd be able to cut it up. So we've got two different loops going on there. So there's two different things that I can use within the same track. Now, when I'm in Rekordbox, I could then set a hot cue at the start of the track for the first loop, and then a minute in, when the second loop comes in, I could set another hot cue for that. So I could jump between the two, effectively creating my own structure of that a cappella. So that's generally kind of what I would do in preparing an a cappella. I might spend a bit more time kind of working on this, finessing it, making it a little bit smoother. You never know, there might be some other bits within the a cappella that I could use, then be able to make a third loop within that DJ tool. Okay, so we got our DJ tool now all set up. We've got a couple of loops going on within there. Just need to export it now and get it into Rekordbox. So I'm going to go up to the file menu, click export, and from within here we can choose to export it as a WAV, but there's also the option to export it as an MP3 as well. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to be bringing it into Rekordbox now, so an MP3 will work just fine for me. Click export and we can export it to our hard drive. Okay, so we got our DJ tool here ready to go. All we need to do is get it into our DJ software so it's analysed and ready to play out. And that's a key part. We want to make sure that it's ready to play. It's all been properly gridded. It's all at the right tempo. It's going to start in the right place so that we're all prepared when we play it out live. Now, I'm going to show you how to do this in Rekordbox because that's what I use. But if you're using Traktor or Serato, you can follow along and you'll understand what I'm doing here. It'll just be different in your software slightly. So let's go into Rekordbox and let's drag and drop this new a cappella tool into Rekordbox. It will go ahead and it will start analysing it. Now, it's probably going to get this wrong. It'll probably get the key right. It'll probably get the key of the vocal right, but it'll probably get the tempo wrong and the grid wrong because it's used to analysing tracks for their beats and therefore knowing the tempo of it and where the first bar is and the second bar and third bar, etc. When it comes to an acapella, it's less reliable on that front. So let's double click on it and let's see how well it's done it. Well, if I go to the grid tab, I can see that the BPM of the track is 165 BPM. So that's nowhere near right. Now, if we'd have downloaded this acapella, then we would have had a bit more of a tricky time trying to figure out what this original tempo would be, unless it said somewhere on the download website. But because we've actually edited this in Ableton, we know for a fact that it's 124 BPM. So this is where we can just enter 124 BPM. So if I single click onto this tempo, I can then enter in 124 BPM. So this is now perfectly set for BPM. We know that that's the speed of the track, but the grid is not in the right place. So again, we've done this in Ableton. We know that at the start of that Ableton project, where it goes, what will we do? The first word, what, is on the first beat of the bar. So we know that that's where we want it to sit. We can see easily from this waveform that the what starts right there. So I'm just going to move the playhead. And then we can see the grid is slightly off here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little button here, which sets the first beat of the bar, and that will set it to the first beat of what will we do. Now we can see also our memory point is actually on here as well, which is not correct. So I'm going to hit Q just to move that onto there, or the Q anyway. I'm going to get rid of the first memory point, and I'm just going to make sure that first memory point was within there. So we can see that everything is set to that first beat of the bar. Just one of those first things that I always do. Now heading back to the grid tab here, we can put the metronome on and we can play this back to hear if it's in time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now we can see that it is all in time because we've already prepped this in Ableton. There's no guessing, there's no kind of moving, there's no editing. We know that it's 124 BPM and we know where it starts, and that's it. That's all we need to know. Because we prepared it all in Ableton, we know exactly how this acapella is supposed to play out. So we've got everything set there with our grid points, our tempo. Now we need to put the hot cues in so we know when we can jump to different parts of the track. So I'm going to go into the cue tab here, and we're going to do it in two different ways. We're going to do hot cues and memory points. Now I've gone over this in another video, but basically hot cues allow you to perform. So as soon as you hit a hot cue, it plays from that point, and a memory point is where you can select different parts to start from. So as soon as you go to a memory point, it will start from that point. It won't play, it will be there ready and waiting, i.e. cued. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a memory point and hot cue on here. Now the memory point is already on this first bit. We just did that. So I'm going to put a hot cue on this first one here. So I can now play this from this point.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to move to about a minute through the track. So halfway through, we know that the track is 2 minutes long. We've got the first loop going for a minute, and then the second loop going for another minute. So I'm going to jump to that, about the middle of the track, and we can see there a clear point where this changes. So I'm just going to, again, find that start there. I'm going to hit the cue button here, just to put the cue just there. And again, I'm going to put a memory point in here, and I'm going to put a hot cue. So I've got two ways of doing it. You don't have to do both of these things. You can just do one or the other. It's up to you. So there we go. We've got two different points there to start from. If I hit A,
when I think of you, when I think of you, all I want to do is tell you I love you. Everything you do when I'm feeling blue lets me know love is true. What would we do when I think of you?
there you go. It's a bit rough there. I could have probably smoothed it off a little bit better, but I'm trying to do it quite quickly for you guys. Keep it nice and snappy in this video. But yeah, as you can see, it's really easy to kind of then put these hot cues in there and then juggle between them when you're playing out live. So there you go. That DJ tool is now ready to go for me to play in my sets. And as you can see, it really didn't take that much time or that much effort or even that much skill in Ableton. It was purely just about cutting it up and making it right for my set. And now I can play that out and make my set unique. So next time you download an acapella, take it into Ableton, cut it up a bit and make it unique for your set. So I hope this video has been helpful. I hope it's given you some inspiration as to what you can do with acapellas, how you can chop them up and make your sets unique. If you like the video, give the video a like, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification icon so that you're notified whenever I upload a brand new video. I've got a ton of content like this on my channel already, so definitely check that out, and I'll see you again in the next video.
Giving up all